My lords, your marshals, ladies and gentlemen, let me add my welcome to that to the Commandant and thank her for enabling us to take part in this unveiling today. The Royal Air Force and this college in particular have been confronted with immense challenges over the last 17 months in conducting training which was ramped up to meet an urgent need for men and women and increasing the number of courses per year. The pandemic has made that task onerous in the extreme. And the absence of cadets today is not due to finishing this task, but to give a well-earned break to staff between courses.
Inviting me, I should say, to unveil the statue, and you say my grandfather looks proud. Well, all I can say is that I'm very proud to have been invited to unveil the work of Vivien Mallock, that excellent sculptress who sadly cannot be with us today, but I think she has got him absolutely right. I think it's a great likeness, and I think that it is wonderful for me to think that this college that my grandfather worked so hard to establish and was so insistent that it should be established, and now that he can look at it from his pedestal alongside his creation. I would like to thank first Sir Michael Graydon for his energy and his effort in chairing the Cranwellian Association, and for its many members who have generously donated to make this project, to realise this project. Thank you very much. In this age when it is fashionable for statues to be toppled rather than erected, I think I am very lucky that a second statue of my grandfather, beyond the one that looks at the eye outside the Ministry of Defence main building, has been erected. And I think it is, perhaps, I shouldn't say this, but maybe I could say it, I think it's it's quite interesting that 64 years after his death, a statue has been put up to him. And I thank all of you, the Royal Air Force community, and particularly the Cranwellian Association, and in particular Sir Chris Coville and his team, who put in so much work to raise the money, select the great Vivien Mallock, and complete the work. I'd also like to thank Air Commodore Marshall for inviting me here today. It's very nice to go back to the lodge, which I haven't been to for a long time, and also Group Captain Campbell for kindly having me back at Royal Air Force Cranwell. And Sir Michael has already said most of what needed to be said, but I'm delighted that Jenny Worth is here because her husband Tony Worth, a great Lord Lieutenant of Lincolnshire and a great supporter of the Royal Air Force and its institutions, who did so much, both for the RAF in general and in particular for the Bomber Command Memorial at Lincoln. And also it's notable that Tony Worth's grandfather was Commandant, Sir Arthur Longmore was Commandant of Cranwell in 1929. So it's wonderful that Jenny is here. And Sir Michael also mentioned Lord Salisbury, who's been kind enough to come here today, because his great-uncle, Lord Hugh Cecil, was one of the small group that really built the foundations of the Royal Air Force out of the Royal Flying Corps. And my grandfather was a huge admirer of his and thought that he was a very wise man. And it's remarkable that besides being Member of Parliament for Oxford University, he was able to serve in the First World War as a lieutenant in the Royal Flying Corps at the same time. So he was obviously extremely good at multitasking. And also, it's wonderful to have Venetia Salmon here, because her grandfather, Marshal of the Royal Air Force, Sir John Salmon, succeeded my grandfather as Chief of Air Staff in 1930, as you all know. And interestingly, because I looked him up in Wikipedia this morning, his pilot's license, or aviator's certificate, Sir John Salmon's was number 272, issued by the Central Flying School at Uphaven in Wiltshire on the 13th of August 1912, number 272. My grandfather's was number 270, issued on the 31st of July 1912, and he was 39 years old, and just the cut-off date for getting your pilot's license was 40. So he nearly missed it, in which case he wouldn't have been invited to come back and be first Chief of Air Staff after his stint as General Officer commanding the Royal Flying Corps at Saint-Omer during the First World War. He believed that in order to survive after the war, that the Royal Air Force had to have its own permanent institutions. And the most important of those was perhaps this college. And it's always looked a bit naked compared with Dartmouth and Sandhurst, which have lots of statues. So anyway, there is now a statue here, and I'm very proud that you have decided to put it up. He believed that institutions such as this were necessary, and I think he was right. And he also said that the Royal Air Force would only come of age when a graduate of Cranwell came to command the Royal Air Force. and this was achieved in his lifetime. And Marshal of the Royal Air Force Sir Dermot Boyle called on my grandfather in January 1956, a few days before his death, and said, "You have achieved your dream because your college has produced a graduate who's now Chief of that staff." So it's a very special occasion for me. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for having me, and I'm very proud to unveil the statue. I hope you like it. Thank you very much.
A reading from the Gospel of St. Matthew, from chapter 7, verses 24 to 27. Jesus said to the crowd, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock."
There are very few words to add to what's already been said, but then again I am a chaplain. The rains came and it fell. Trenchard has been a foundation stone for this place, a strong foundation that we've been able to build on, and that, as the Commandant has said, we continue to build on and will build on into the future. And so we dedicate this memorial in the presence of one another and of God, that it may be both a challenge and an inspiration to all who pass it. Amen.
Concludes the wonderful unveiling ceremony. Thank you very much. My thanks to the wonderful Air Cadets. Thank you so much. You've done a wonderful job today, and also to the Sleaford.
We'll just try and grab Lord Trenchard. Lord Trenchard,
Yes,
I think we've all had a wonderful day here today.
haven't we?
What are your thoughts, having stood here today and unveiled the statue of your grandfather?
Well, obviously, I'm very proud, and it's a great honour for me to have been invited here today to do the unveiling. And it's wonderful that Vivien Mallock has got such a good likeness of him.
And if your grandfather had been able to be here today, what do you think he would have thought looking out over the college today?
I don't know, because he didn't like a lot of fuss being made about him. I'm sure he would be very proud that the college has celebrated its centenary year, because it was always very important to him that the Royal Air Force should have strong, enduring institutions in order to survive as an independent service. So I'm sure he'd be very honoured. But as for a lot of fuss being made about him as a person, I don't think he was particularly that kind of person himself.
That's wonderful to know, and thank you so much for being here and honouring us by unveiling the statue today.
Not at all, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.